hopefully have somebody here from the news media in just a few minutes to get started, or for them to get started, not for us. So we'll begin our meeting with prayer this morning. And Blake, would you mind offering the prayer this morning, please? Thank you.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for all the blessings that you give us. We thank you, dear Father, for the beauty of this earth and the beauty we see outside here when we come in and go out. We thank you for the sunshine. We thank you for the rain. Thank you, dear Father, for each one in this room and each part they play in the service of this county and this city. And ask for your blessings on them. We pray that you, those who help keep us safe and respond to our troubles, you help keep them safe and help them do the job that they're responsible for. Thank you, dear Father, for those in government, and we pray that you would be with them and help them make decisions, that they would lean on you when they have important decisions to make, that they would know that they can call on you and that you're there with them, dear Father, in every decision that they make. Ask for you to bless those who serve our country in the military, men and women, those that serve here on our shores, and those who serve in foreign countries, dear Father, for their doing a special call and have a special need to help keep us safe. Thank you, dear Father, for this county and this city that we live in. We thank you for this country and the privilege that we have to live here in a free country that you've given us, and we just pray that it'll stay that way, and we know that it'll only stay that way, dear Father, if people lean on you, if people turn to you, if people turn back to you, dear Father, that we need that. Too many times people think that money's the answer, but Lord, if people just turn to you, it'll solve a lot of problems in this country and everywhere around the world. We thank you, dear Father, for everything, especially your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ, in whose name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Blake. Let's stand for the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, not to hex the meeting, but it is at least presumed to be a short meeting. We don't have a lot on the agenda this morning, but always hear from the public. If there's anybody here from the general public that wishes to speak, we'll let you do that. It seems like everybody in the room's attached to some agency of county government, or somebody's got another purpose here. So we'll move along then to the minutes from our last meeting. You all have those now in advance.
Move to approve.
Motion by Marty to approve the minutes. It's been seconded by Blake. If there's no questions on the motion, excuse me, Pam, would you call the roll, please?
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Blake Tarpley.
Yes.
Larry Randolph.
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes, the minutes are approved. The next item, I mentioned to you at the last meeting, and excuse me, the city has proposed to close a public alley over behind the Crabtree building, and the primary reason for doing this is to accommodate the Historical Society. They're renovating that building, as you all know, and they're going to need an exit door in the rear of that building, and building codes do not allow for an exit door to exit into a public, it has to exit onto something that you own. It can't exit onto a street. And so in order for them to get approval for the plans that they have to renovate the interior of that space, they need to be able to have an exit door in the rear that does not exit into a public alley. The city has agreed to close the alley in order to accommodate their request. And the first step, I had a whole packet of information at the last meeting, but after kind of digging through a little closer, the first step is really simple. And that is, all we have to do as a property owner that adjoins the alley is first consent to the city's decision to close the alley. Then I think the city has a further action item, and then also maybe we will, to actually receive the ownership of a portion of that alley. Part of the alley will be deeded to us, another part of the alley will be deeded to the Presbyterian Church that owns the adjacent property. So the consent is in there. Again, this is the first step, we just authorize me to sign this consent to close in the public way.
We approve.
I got a question.
Motion by Blake, second by Larry. Yeah.
When you're talking about deeding half of it to the Presbyterian Church and half of it to the county, I thought, will that do the same as giving them an easement? Because, you know, we were worried they might think, another court could say, well, we're just gonna shut it down, so should it read that they have, even though we're gonna own it, that they have an easement on that?
Yeah, I think that's I agree, yes. I think that our subsequent receiving ownership of that portion of the alley, that we need to give an easement of some kind, both to the city, and they may prepare this in a quick claim deed or something saying, I'm not sure how they'll do it. But if they don't account for the permission of the Presbyterian Church to have access, then we should. Obviously, they've got some the city has some utilities in that alley, and they would need to be.
This is just simply the consent to close.
Yes, I mean, and Leslie, I know from the standpoint of fire response and those kind of things, I know alleys become an issue in the city as far as the ability to get a fire truck in. So we need to make sure it's clear that we don't intend to construct something over top of the alley, and we would hope that the same decision is made by the Presbyterian Church not to actually, encroach into what is now the alley with some kind of structure. That was a big deal behind the Justice Center that we didn't have any control over, but there were pads and, HVAC pads and other decks and other things built on the back of those buildings that essentially make the use of that alley impossible. And there's been other alleys closed completely in the city. And I don't know if it matters that much if you get kind of outside the perimeters of the square, but at least around the main square, or the buildings around the adjacent square, if you've got building against building with nothing but an alley in between them, I know the fire department would want to have some access to that interior area to fight fire. But
I just wanted to make sure that it was clear, that somebody didn't hear this and think, they wouldn't have any easement or anything.
And say, have you had any conversation with Scott or anything
I
about
talked to
this?
him briefly about 3 weeks ago on the telephone, and he was basically saying, pretty much what you were saying about having the consent, and eventually the county would get a portion of the real estate once they close it, and the Presbyterian Church would get the other. We didn't really talk about easements. I mean, certainly that's something that can be addressed. I mean, we're a long way from closing the alley right now. But I think it's a valid point.
Any other questions on the motion?
I kind of do, I'm not sure how I need to word that about.
Yeah, the motion is just that the court would consent to closing the public alley adjacent to the property that we own there on West Kentucky and West Washington.
I authorize you to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? We'll vote on the motion.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Larry Randolph, Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes. Motion passes. And we'll sign that and get it back to them. Continuing under regular business, the couple things I stuck in on the portal for you. I didn't list them on the agenda, but one involves an agreement that, in fact, Eric just brought me this yesterday, but we've talked about this before. Did you want us to be able to take any action on this VIN engine service agreement today?
That's just an updated contract. Sam and I and Brent went through that and approved it, and all it needs is a signature. We've already approved that. We're just waiting for your signatures.
This agreement's already been approved by the court previously? Okay.
That's the one that we sent out for bids.
On the vendors
On the
to
vendors,
do
right.
the kiosk
Right.
and all that? Okay. So we don't need any further action on that, I just need to sign it. Then, excuse me, do you want to talk about this retirement of the dog?
I just,
I stuck that in there too, I think, the jail, the K-9 release.
we're gonna resign,
You've seen that.
my canine
I actually
officer.
prepared it.
Okay, then you go.
Actually, yes, Sam prepared this for us. Our canine
So the answer to your
officer
question is yes, I've seen it.
Yes, thank you.
has actually resigned, and we'd like to retire the dog because it's a one-person dog. It is aggressive, and I don't want that liability on the county.
Right.
Just, my thinking is it goes with him, and he's willing to keep it.
And we've done this once before, right?
Correct, we did it with his predecessor, and so I honestly, I think just for a liability
Mhm.
standpoint, I think this is probably the smartest thing to do, so basically we're following the same precedent we did with the other one.
I'll move to approve if you need a motion.
So we got a motion by Marty, the motion's to authorize the transfer of this animal, which is technically a county asset,
Right.
to the, to retire the animal, transfer the asset to the trainer that previously
Correct.
had this dog, and to receive a fair market value exchange of $300 for the value of the dog not as a canine, but as a pet value, obviously the dog. And as you all know, these dogs, they're trained specifically for this, they're trained to a handler, and once all that changes, they're fairly useless as a canine unit after that. They just become a pet, a family member, yeah, absolutely. So the motion's been made by Marty. Is there a second by Larry? Pam, you got the motion. It's kind of muddy a little bit, but we'll get it cleared up if there's any question. Okay, we'll vote on the motion, please.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes, thank you. Let's see here. Eric, did you have anything else that you wanted us to act on? I mean, we've already approved going out for bid for a van, right?
Right, and what I brought over to you was just the proposal put in the paper.
Yeah.
Make sure you're fine with that.
Yeah, just, as you all remember, we budgeted in this fiscal year for another transport van. I think we've already approved the advertisement, and so at this point, we'll just be putting that out very soon, so. Do you have anything else? Okay. Then the next item, or the next section of our agenda, deals with our financial matters, and we'll move into that. You've got the transfers that Nicole prepared for you. If you want to look over any of those, ask any questions, certainly.
Are the sheriff's transfers in with the budget transfers?
No.
Okay.
But they are kind of similar,
That's right, when I was looking at the budget transfers, I seen some,
just
like,
on this case, because like I said, he's finishing up his year, so, the calendar year. So
We've got a
we
separate
gotta make it
set
work in
of
both.
transfers for the sheriff's budget
Yeah,
to approve.
but sometimes I have to make it work in both sets of books.
okay, so in this case,
It's-
some of, because I seen like from hazardous duty retirement to, office, or supplies or something
Yeah.
on the budget transfers, then I seen on the sheriff's transfers too, so that is kind of the same, okay.
Make a motion, we approve the transfer.
Okay, we've got a motion by Larry to approve the account transfers as listed, seconded by Bobby. Any further questions on the motion? Okay, Pam.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes, that motion passes. Now, let's look specifically at the sheriff's transfers. And this will be something that we have, maybe not as often or as many, well, maybe not as often and maybe not as much individual line item transfers. But this will be something that we do similarly with the clerk's office once we get everything working in step with the budget. And as you all know, the sheriff's budget is approved in January, but, and we incorporate all that into our budget, but then the sheriff himself has some discretion within his line items to make transfers. We do this with the jailer, but we don't do it like this because the jail budget is far more incorporated into the budget and always has been, but the fee official's budget is approved at a different time. So you'll see a list there of about 8 or 10 internal transfers. They don't change his bottom line, but it's important for the office holder to give us some guidance on where they want to move things around if they're running low in one line item and needing additional funding in another. So you see the transfers that are listed here. The sheriff can answer questions, or Nicole if you have any questions, but about $20,000 worth of internal transfers in the sheriff's budget. So did you have a question on any of those?
No, it was just, like I say, that there was one amount on here for $9,700, and I think it was the same amount, and I was just seeing if it looked to me like it was the same thing, but I was just wanting to make sure.
And it is, isn't it?
Yeah, because ultimately, I mean, we're gonna be paying for it out of our fiscal budget. So, I mean, we kind of have to prepare it on both sides.
I just had never
Just to-
seen, I'd never seen that before, and I
To
just.
keep the line
respect-
items within reason, I mean, as we're going in the fiscal year compared to the calendar year.
Okay.
And again, we do the same thing with Eric, but just so you understand, and this primarily originated as a result of us not wanting to be making those determinations without the input of the office holder. I mean, obviously, we've always done that with the jail, as that budget has been incorporated in our total budget. So, I mean, if we're running low here, running high here, or whatever, you know, we have that conversation and we build that into the way that we operate. But with the sheriff in particular, and this was probably more of an issue with other sheriffs, but we've continued this practice, and it's a good practice. That way Jerry D has some ownership in these decisions more than us just saying, well, you're running high here, we're gonna move some out because you're running low here.
Right.
We really want the office holder to be involved in that. And again, the same will be true with the county clerk now that we're fee pooling. Yeah.
Just a quick comment, Judge. The reason you see those transfers usually in September, October, I'm on the calendar year.
Right.
You can rule December out for the sheriff's office because it's almost too late to be able to buy something, get a bill, and get it in, because it has to come through you guys. I mean, we've got several weeks in advance. It's much easier for me to look in October and with 2 months left in my year and go, I've got more money than I needed here, but there's some stuff we need down here, we need to move it around. It's a little more accurate than it is in January when you're predicting for the whole year. Keep in mind, my goal with the sheriff's office is to get enough personnel in, and we've got 2 guys in the academy that graduate in 3 weeks. That for the first time in Simpson County, we'll have at least 2 officers on the shift. Right now, we still got times you've only got 1 deputy out in the county. It is what it is, but that's not a safe practice. To do that involves getting stuff, so with the guys gearing up to get out of the academy, lots of things come into play. Be glad to answer any questions. But that's why in October you're seeing moving money from here to there.
And just to be clear, I wasn't questioning any of that. The only question I had was, like I say, it was 2 exact amounts. One was in your transfer and one was in the budget transfer. The only question I had was, and it looked to me like they were the same thing, and that's all. But I'm not questioning
No,
that at all, because
they're all good questions.
I think you're doing an excellent job, and I have no problem with it.
And I think it's important, occasionally we gloss over these things, and I think it's really important for us to occasionally be refreshed and refresh those who might be paying attention to our meetings, what we're doing when we do these things, because again, it might seem redundant in some cases because we've already got it built into the budget. But for example, and this has been a practice, it's worked and we've been fortunate, but as the sheriff just explained, it's probably going to be less the practice going forward, that you have some personnel expenses that don't actually get spent because of turnover or because of a delay in the start of retirement contributions or what have you. And so we've been able to take some of those retirement line items and transfer out into something like law enforcement supplies or office supplies, or other types of expenses that we need funding for. That's going to get more difficult, and the sheriff and I are going to have to do probably a little more conservative budgeting on that in the new budget, because I think he is gonna realize the actual expenditure of a lot of that now that we're getting fully staffed. Also, one other thing, you might not remember this, or you may have just not even known it or looked over it, is previously to the last administrative code revision, retirement contributions did not begin until after a full 90 days. Is that right?
6 months.
I'm sorry, okay, 6 months on retirement, 90 days on health insurance. We have changed that policy, and effective September 1, new hires will go into the retirement system and into the health insurance program in the month immediately following 60 days. So what that'll do in budgeting is for people like the jailer and the sheriff and the clerk and other departments for that matter who have anticipation of hiring people, you might have thought, well, I'm going to have a 6-month lag where I won't have any retirement costs, but in reality now that's going to hit in the 3rd month. So again, that's going to sting a little of the cushion that we kind of mentally accounted for when we made the budget, thinking that we wouldn't need every dollar of retirement in a fiscal year, but it may be that that's going to get closer and closer to reality. So, but good questions, all good questions.
And I knew Sam was going to talk about the budget so bad.
He enjoys that. Yeah.
Indeed.
You want any more detail on that, or is that enough? Okay.
Whatever the court thinks best.
Thank you, Sam. Have we got a motion? So the motion would be to approve the sheriff's transfers within the budget. Motion by Blake, second by Marty. Any questions? Pam will call the roll, please.
Blake Hartley.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Larry Randolph. Jim Peterson.
Yes. Okay, then you got the list of claims. That's the bills. Nicole prepares this in 2 formats. One that's a little easier to read for not looking at the budget necessarily. But
I got a couple of questions.
yes, sir.
Simpson County Water District, $22,500.
Yes, that's for those fire hydrants that we approved installing
How about
on 100 East.
Mhm.
We budgeted for that this
Yeah.
year. There were 5, right, Leslie? I think we actually budgeted 25,000
Mhm.
because we thought they might be about 5,000, but they've been put in.
I remember.
Are they serviceable yet? Have they given you a green light?
He has not.
Yeah, I meant to mention that to Nicole. I wasn't sure that I really wanted us to pay that until we had them fully able to be used, but they may be usable by the time the check is cut.
I'm sure this is not
They're in.
memory, but Lanham
I know they're in, yeah.
They're in.
stock fence.
Yeah, we were just talking about that before the court. We put a divider fence down between the farmer's market and the property that Kelly Harding bought from us. Those driveways are just nearly adjoined, and there's been a lot of people pulling in Kelly's driveway and then cutting over into.
There's another one there for removing a fence. Did you take a fence down?
Now, that was down at the Bradford building.
Oh, okay.
We took down that old chain link fence, and then, so there's two different fences.
Yeah,
And in fact, there's probably other, and I didn't look at that claim specifically because I'd already seen the bill. Is there the cost of installing the new fence along the property line with the ditch, the storm ditch. There's a black chain link fence we put all the way across there to keep people from driving across it. Then we took down a section of fence that was already there, and then in fact, we haven't put up yet the new section of fence, but that fence that we took down, we're actually going to put it inside the sheriff's department storage bay in the Bradford building so that he can have a secure evidence storage area, and we're repurposing the fence that we had there. So,
Okay.
other questions?
Is that all included in the cost of redoing that property down there, and it'll be covered by?
Yes. Mhm, mhm.
I'll make-
Not the one at the farmer's market, but
Yeah,
the
the one
others,
at the
yes.
Bradford.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion we approve the claims.
Motion's been made to approve the claims by Larry, second by Bobby. Again, any questions, feel free to ask. I don't want us to gloss over anything. If you have a question, please ask. Okay, Pam, we'll call the roll.
Larry Randolph.
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Blake Hartley.
Yes.
Jim Peterson.
Yes, that motion passes. We'll sign some checks this afternoon. The financial statement for September is in. As you all remember, we met on, I think, the 3rd or 4th day of October. Was it the 3rd? 4th? Last month, and Megan was still doing reconciliation, but we've got the financial statement here for September. This reflects the first quarter, July, August, and September. So you would hope to see, if you could assume that every expenditure was proportionate to the year, and if all the revenues were proportionate to the year, everything would be at about 25%. Neither of those is true, by the way. We do have revenues that disproportionately come in.
I think the
And
taxes are at
revenues.
.047.
Yeah, we're looking for a big check from the sheriff real soon.
It is, if you look at it.
And remind me to touch on the sheriff and taxes and bonding. I want to give you a little report on that.
0.47%. We're anticipating $1,020,000 and we've received 4,800.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we get all that pretty much all at once in October, or November, December, and January is the lion's share of it, so. In fact, as you can see, the general fund balance is actually at the yearly low. And if you didn't believe that, from me, ask Nicole, because she's been on me pretty regularly about slowing down on unnecessary expenditures. It takes a whole lot of money just to operate a month. And if you go 3 or 4 months without any significant revenue, it doesn't take long for that to come down. But we should rebound pretty quickly with the third quarter, or the third quarter of the calendar year, the first quarter of the fiscal year, occupational tax revenue, and then the property taxes that'll come in. But again, please ask questions. You won't, whether you ask now, then look at it later and wished you had. Megan will be glad to answer any questions on the document. But you've had it in advance of today, so hopefully if you had questions, you've had a chance to formulate those. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the September financial statement subject to audit.
So moved.
Motion by Bobby, seconded by Larry. Hearing no further questions, we'll vote on the motion. Pam?
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Larry Randolph.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Mike Tarpley.
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes. Speaking of the property tax collections, you know, we had a conversation maybe 2 or 3 meetings ago about the sheriff's bond, about bonding individuals, and I may need Nicole's refresher on this if I
So you all covered that.
misstep. Yeah, no, we didn't. I didn't want to cover that when you were out. I was afraid I'd forget something. But we found that we did price the bond for the sheriff at different levels. And did I forward you all that, the pricing on those different tiers on the sheriff's bonding? We priced it at $3 million, $4 million, $5 million. Is that what we priced it at? And the high one was a little over, how much?
It was about, $1,000
Per million. So it was about 3,000 on 3 million, 4,000 on 4 million, 5,000 on 5 million. So the question is, you know, do we want, we're not required. I'm just required to make you all aware of the risk, I guess, if you want to call it that. That if the sheriff somehow figured out a way to manipulate the bank accounts before anybody noticed and could make off with, you know, $4 or $5 million, I think you have to be aware of that risk. I think that's a very small risk. There are risks that we have that I think could occur. You could have theft occur in any of our departments, for that matter, at some level. I think there's some calculated risk that goes into an organization that handles $12.5 million. But I guess the question is, do you want to spend $4,000 or $5,000 to bond the sheriff for 2 or 3 months on that kind of money? It's not required. The statute clearly says how much the bond's supposed to be. Also, on the other people that handle money, we got clarification from our insurance company And everybody that we talked about, and this guy goes back, Sheriff, you and I talked about this, but we got clarification. Everybody we talked about, like Pam and your office staff, Sheriff, and others, we have coverage,
$150,000 employee dishonesty coverage.
yeah, with our plan. So the question would be, really, do you have a desire to have more than $150,000 of coverage for any employees? And again, there's a cost with that if you have a bond for those people. And so the bonds are explicitly laid out in the statute as to how much they're supposed to be. There's got to be some rhyme or reason as, for that number, that we've got all the bonds in place that are required. But I guess going forward, again, if you all want to purchase additional bonding coverage on certain employees, I'll forward you all that so you can see. But my personal opinion is that we have sufficient measures in place. I know the sheriff, for example, has installed security cameras in his office. The sheriff can see all of the tills, all of the front desk people and their interaction with the public and money. And so I think that's a wise and a reduced risk measure that's a good use of money, maybe more so than a big bond. If you had money, then they do a daily deposit and a daily balance. So if you had an issue in the balance, then the sheriff could go back and look at that camera. And if he saw Susie, you don't have Susie working down there, do you?
Susie.
All right. So if you had Susie down there sticking 100 in her pocket, you might see that in the camera. So again, I think those are relatively reasonable measures to reduce risk without bonds.
On the exact pricing, so.
Okay.
The $3 million, $2,482, $4,003,256, $5,004,028. And then we also ran some numbers on, like, if we did a 300,000, it's $335. And 400,000 is 420. 500,000 is 507.
Is that an
So-
annual premium or is that just
No,
for
it's
3
just a
months?
3-month rider.
That's just for a
policy.
3-month rider?
Yeah,
Well, wait a minute, the sheriff's.
on the sheriff only.
Yeah, that's
If you
right.
want it for that 3 months that he does big tax.
Those others were priced for a year.
Right.
What is the sheriff's name?
No, the
What is that?
millions are.
No. I'm talking about those others that we talked about for like his office staff, anybody that handles money. We talked
Oh,
about
yeah.
like Kathy and Mary Beth at the jail.
Are they covered under the 150,000?
They would be covered under our employee
But if you
dishonesty.
wanted to do 300,000, then you'd have to get a policy bonding for another
Well,
150. if you
what's
wanted
the
to.
sheriff's bond at now, 50,000?
He has a 50,000 and he has a 10, but the 50,000 is like
The revenue bond.
for the taxing.
My personal opinion
And
is,
that's a KRS statute, we
Right.
have to have at least that.
my personal opinion is I would look towards the $500,000 bond for the sheriff, simply because there is so much money being handled down there. And, you're saying right now, he's got $50,000 bond on him, when we got $150,000 bond, basically coverage on other employees.
Well, the 150 is insurance, it's not a
Right.
bond.
Right, it's insurance, but what I'm saying is that's the amount that,
Correct.
that's there, so that would be my personal opinion, but, we can
Sheriff,
look at that and
I'm sorry,
see.
let me interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
I'm just gonna ask, what's the maximum, I mean, if you wanna think about it in terms of the risk, if you wanna put some number with it, what in a day, your highest day, would you maybe handle in the office?
$1 million. We've had $1 million day before. But now bank accounts, when you get to look at bank accounts, we can have up to 8
Oh,
million.
yeah, right.
8 million in there at one time.
But you could have $1 million received in checks or cash in a single day on property tax days.
You get a time when, keep in mind, a lot of people use their mortgage companies to pay their taxes. They like to get those paid by, usually right at the end of October, you just get a big thing of mail coming in from, the various mortgage companies. And processing all that, you could hit $1 million. And we have hit $1 million.
And so I guess, again, there needs to be some rationale behind what the number would
Let
be.
me add one other thing up. Don't let the $1 million scare you that much. It is there, could be there, but maybe 3/4 of it is gonna be checks. Hopefully I'm honest, but let's say I wasn't, and I was gonna do something, it would be hard to take that $1 million and convert it to anything outside of the cash, and then y'all will be looking for me and probably find me eventually down in Mexico or something. But $200,000, if that's what you ran away with, ain't enough to run forever. You're gonna run out.
That's the reason I said $500,000.
Yeah.
I like the $500,000.
And maybe, yeah, that would probably cover a high cash day. So I think there should be some reason to it. And you know, if you remember, folks, some of you all won't remember, but unfortunately, things like this, I don't forget. We had some cash that tax money, cash that was paid for property taxes early in my time here that was unaccounted for. It wasn't $500,000, it wasn't even, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but, you know, people who pay in cash sometimes don't care whether they get a receipt either. And so there were, you know, there are ways to, it's harder now than it ever was, but there are still ways for that to occur. So cash is still the big issue. So maybe $500,000 would be something. So that would probably still run us somewhere under 1,000.
500 and something is what she said.
Yeah, 507 for 500,000.
For 3 months.
Once you have her prepare that, we'll
Yeah.
approve it next meeting.
That's probably a good idea. So we'll get with Marie Skinner that does our bonds. And as you know, that bond is issued on the good credit and stature of the sheriff himself. I mean, it is based on the person. And it's like Jerry D explained, I think, before. The bond is issued on the ability that the bond company has to think they can go after the sheriff to get it. And the same is true for any of our bonds. I mean, they're based on our individual capacity.
Which brings up another question about, when we're talking about upping amounts and everything, is the bond on Jolene or the county clerk, is that?
Well, that was raised this last year on
Is it?
CHIP.
So the KRS raised it from 75,000 to 100,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so he should be fine, because I doubt they have $100,000 cash.
And we haven't really, I mean, I haven't received any recommendations from the auditor that needs to increase at any given time,
Okay.
so.
I haven't heard anything from Martha either.
Kimberly, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but do you have any idea how much a high day would be in the clerk's office as far as money that's deposited?
Well, March and April are gonna be our highest. And like I just started this past February, so I rolled right into both those months. I think maybe in March, a high day for the clerk's office was probably about, again, we have more checks than we would cash. A daily deposit maybe about 25,000, 30,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on a high
So
day.
that 100 would be more than sufficient.
And the $150,000 employee dishonesty would cover clerk's deputies as
Now,
well.
when we did our the delinquent tax sale, it was significantly higher, but, I mean, that's in and out,
Yeah.
so.
I don't know if it'd be feasible for him to do it or not, but we've always handled a lot of cash. We make 2 deposits a day. I don't know if it's feasible, if you can do that or not. When you get a bunch, I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. It's a possibility.
It's made, checking out the tax bills is a major checkout.
You'd have to actually clear out during the day.
We could, but we've got safe to put money in, but that's not gonna clear, what we're talking about employee theft, we're talking about, am I gonna walk out with the money? I can walk out and take it, excuse my language, but I can walk out and take it to deposit it and just not come back, I just told it. So the double, now what that would help is if somebody walks through the front door and tries to rob you. But we've got some plans, I won't go into things if something.
That would
I'm just
take a
thinking-
lot of brass right there.
Robbing the sheriff's office, that'd be the last place I'd be thinking.
A lot of brass.
Yeah, proud of you for that. You never know.
Eric, what about, I know you all handle also quite a bit of cash at times, especially inmate money coming in and that kind of thing, but are all the numbers we've talked about, you think would cover your employees?
My biggest day is
As far
probably,
as-
I mean, on a big day, it's probably gonna be $100,000 for
Okay,
those. And
so
that's
that
if-
150 would cover it.
That's if everybody comes in and pays their bonds. So.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, let's explore getting the bond for the sheriff for $500,000, upping it to $500,000. That might make the auditors feel better. Again, they're not writing us up over it. We have the exact amount we're required by law, but they might
Need
just,
a motion on
that might be best.
Also,
Motion by Marty, second by Blake to authorize getting a bond on the sheriff, a rider for the sheriff's bond of additional $500,000 for the peak months of tax collection, which would probably be about 3 months, October, November, December. Okay, Pam will vote on the motion,
Was it
please.
Chandler and Tarpley?
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
yes.
Blake Tarpley,
that? Yes.
Bobby Bush,
Yes.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Jim Henderson,
Yes. All right, I included some other information in your, just in there
We're
for,
talking to the sheriff.
Yes, sir.
The vehicle that was damaged in the crash out on Highway 100, is that still in service? I thought I saw it.
It's still in service. We're waiting to get the, gets a little technically it wasn't an accident, it was a criminal action done intentionally to the vehicle, but we're waiting on what would be an accident report to be able to turn that in. $5,700 worth of damage, but we've also had a couple of other estimates that are a little bit lower, which is a good thing, I wasn't anticipating that. Still runs fine, it's just been,
I thought I saw it.
you start with the bumper, it's damaged, then you go to the back quarter panel, it's damaged, you go to the door, it's damaged, front quarter panel's damaged, the front bumper's damaged, but none of it, makes it not work, yeah. And we're low on vehicles, so we need to keep that one going, we're making some plans for it, but,
All cosmetic.
yeah, it's all cosmetic.
Sheriff, I talked to your deputy, and I was admiring, you know, the beauty marks on the side of the car, and he advised me not to touch that. He didn't want it messed up. He was proud of, you know, how it looked. So,
it's amazing you can have an accident like, or an accident can occur that does that much damage everywhere. I mean, it's just like you say, every piece of it was touched, but none of it in a destructive way so much that it destroyed the vehicles, yeah.
And it's sitting in the parking lot across from the office, man, if you want to look at it, it's up there.
That accident I had tore up everything I was sorry.
Yeah, I saw pictures of your accident. Yeah, I believe that would have broken anvil in that accident.
Brick.
Yeah. Eric, are
sorry.
you prepared to give us an update on the installation of the kitchen?
Yes, sir.
All that.
I'm sitting here reading something else, so, yes, sir.
Get off Facebook.
No, I mean, I'm getting updated by my deputies. They're over there right now, actually working in the kitchen. What do you call it, the evac system? The range hood evac system, or whatever. It has been installed. It's, I don't know if you, I really wish y'all would come over and just take a look at it, because it's a really nice addition to the kitchen, which we had to do regardless. They were gonna smack us on the back of the wrist. So anyway, the range hood is in, it's up and going. It's got it's like an AC unit on top of the building. They had to cut two of them. They had to cut through the roof, through the concrete roof, and what it does, it blows fresh air in and sucks the heat out. And it's got the fire suppression system in it and lights in it, and it's, what, was it Universal? Is that who it was? Superior Fire came in, and they said it was probably one of the nicest, biggest range hoods they've ever put in.
What is the biggest they've ever installed?
And it's a piece of work to look at. And we put in new sinks too. We tried to fix our sinks, and
Was the old range hood the one that was there from the first structure in '85?
yes, sir. And it's yes.
Got your money's worth.
It wasn't replaced when we did the renovations in
No, sir.
2000.
No, sir.
30 years old,
But
so you got your money's worth.
this hood range hood system it's something to look at. I did take pictures. Those y'all are on Facebook. I took pictures and I put it on our website or our Facebook page, so you can see it. there too, if you would like.
We went ahead while we were doing some stuff in there, it just made sense to go ahead and change out a few other things
We
while
did.
they're,
We did replace the
Sink,
sinks because our sinks, they were original also, and where every seam on the sink where they're bent were cracked and we had water going everywhere. We were having to deal with that, creating kind of a danger. So we got that fixed and, Chad, that's what we were just getting text on. We're actually, the sink that we put in was built a little bit lower than the original sink, so we're gonna raise it up so the drain flows and all that stuff works correctly, and that's what we're working on right now. So, y'all feel free to come over and take a look at it. You can see your money's worth there.
feeding 300 inmates a day, 3 times a day, puts a lot of wear on a kitchen, doesn't it?
You just don't realize.
Make for 100, feeding 300.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so there you go.
Very good. You want to mention anything about, I should have given you more preparation on this, but about your contingency plan with people helping, kind of helping you feed your folks during the downtime? Had several-
We're required to feed 1 hot meal a day by jail standards, Kentucky jail standards. With the kitchen being down, we made the best of the situation. We fed cereal every morning. We actually, due to the fact that they were kind of being deprived a little bit, we actually gave them a double portion there in the mornings. At lunch, they just got a sack lunch for the week. And I know that doesn't sound like, much, but these guys work. They're out there working. Y'all know when you work a hard day, and that my guys do, you got to have something to eat. I mean, keep you going. So what we decided to do for the supper, to get the hot meal, we had local vendors here, and I don't mind calling them out because I try to spread it out through the community as much as we can at every opportunity we can. But Mr. Dunn, he supplied barbecue one day. J&J Market, they supplied burgers and dogs and the fixings one day. I want to say special thanks to the veterans. They brought the big cooker up from the Legion and actually cooked outside for the inmates. It was a lot of community involvement, and we appreciate it. And I do want people to know that people do step up when we're in trouble. So, but it worked out, and I think we're cooking one more today, then we'll be back on track. So
That's what I was going to ask you, is when everything will be back to fully
we
operational?
should be back fully operational tomorrow. Correct?
Tomorrow night.
Okay,
So,
very good.
but
Well, I know it's a big job, and, I mean, you had planned for
it'll
it.
stress you out, trust me. I mean, when you're responsible for 300 miles, it's, and my food service, Kelwell, I mean, they work with us, and, like I said, when you're responsible for 300 miles and lawsuits and all that stuff, if you don't meet the requirements, then, it'll stress you out a little bit. But we came through it and did it the correct way,
And just to remind the court, when you're operating a 24/7 operation, 365 days of the year, Friday evenings don't mean anything different than a Tuesday morning. So was it last Friday evening that I got some texts from you and Brent that they had a sewer pipe fail? They were at one point concerned that they could have to move as many as 100 inmates out to get it repaired. And they managed to get that fixed in a hurry over the course of 24 hours. But
that hits our budget, just for those of you.
you may see some of those bills come through without POs. Eric called me, and we were just talking through it, that when you hit those situations, you just got to do what you got to do.
We had to get that, it was an emergency situation, we had to get it fixed right then, because we actually lost all plumbing, water, sewer, everything to 4 cells. And all 4 of those cells, of course, we're a little bit above capacity, is the correct word we say.
Right.
We're a little bit above capacity in all 4 of those cells.
Not overcrowded, just above capacity.
Above capacity.
Right.
But anyway, that comes, I mean, you got 100 inmates, that's about $1.2 million that affects us in a year's time. So I just want you to know that.
But I was proud of the guys, and I don't do a very good job of complimenting people, and they do a good job, but they had a really good contingency plan. I mean, you know, when that happens, you can't just think, oh, now what do we do? I mean, you got to plan for those things, and they were really prepared, and it kind of goes back to Bob. It's like we talked before. We don't really pay that much attention to the planning until we absolutely have to have it. Then it's like, where's the plan? And so you guys had a good plan. And
Chad Drake and Keith Dinkins, and we got a few inmates that work with them on a daily basis. They really stepped up and got it done. I'm proud of them. So, you know, credit goes where credit's due. So there you go.
good job.
And then on top of all that, he had to watch that Tennessee game.
Judge, can I be excused?
Let me, we're kind of in the report section. Yeah, he's heartless, isn't he? Moving into some of our other reports, I do want Bill to give you guys a brief report on where we are on the Bradford building, the timeline and everything. So just kind of summarize where we are on that.
We're finishing up. The carpet is going to be there in the morning and be installed. I had a pretty thorough cleaning last night from a cleaning company that came in and got the floor in pretty good shape, so we're ready to put the carpet down. Judge Crocker and them are planning on entering the building on the 26th of this month. Then the guys are down there now putting their front roof metal on, so those temporary posts will be removed. They're finishing up the awning. And the only thing that's kind of holding us back right now is the parking lot, where we redid some of the concrete work out front to get the water away from the front door. We actually took out a section of pavement and added a 15-foot section out so we could get enough drop to get that water away from the front door. So we was able to do that, but it caused some big gaps in the parking lot, which we're not going to be able to enter the building if they don't get that paved. So.
But they showed up this morning.
Well, they showed up to start doing
staking
some stake work, grade work, and he wasn't sure when they were going to get the pavers in there. But I'm going to, probably Monday, I've already asked Bobby to probably be on standby Monday, that he can go get some hot mix and bring his roller down there, and we may have to patch them holes, because they're not going to let us go into that building with those holes in the front. So really, that's the only thing. Everything else is done. The gas meter's supposed to be set today. The HVAC's all in. The electrical's all in.
Bobby told me, I believe he told me by the end of this week. He talked to one, and he thought by the end of this week they would have that done.
Yeah, they're going to be here this week.
Yeah. And we're really planning on that work.
Right.
We've planned on some things before that didn't materialize. So. But anyway, that's where we are in that building. And
let me touch on one other thing, since we're talking about the Bradford building, is I've been having some conversation over the last couple of years, honestly, but more recently about the storage of the voting machines. You all may not know, they're stored on the second floor here. They used to be out at the county barn. They were in a back storage room in the county barn for years, but then the county barn wanted that space, and so we ended up putting them up here. I don't know, maybe 6, 8 years ago, but they have to be brought up and down the elevator every election, and we have at least 3 out of 4 years we have two elections, sometimes more if we have a special election. So they got to bring every machine up and down the elevator, load them in and out of the building here. And so I looked at the Bradford building, because we do have some uncommitted space in behind the drug court area. And I think it makes sense to wall up a section of that room, and that way we've got the voting machines on the first floor of a building where they don't have to be brought up and down an elevator or stairs or anything. They can be just rolled right out the door at level into the box trailer that we have to haul the voting machines around. So, but time-wise, we think we're able to get maybe that done Friday. We talked to the guys that did some of the framing down there. They just got an opening. We haven't got an estimate yet, but it would be good if we had this ready by the time this election's over, which means we would need something functional by the 9th of November, the day after the election, to bring them back. We'd hate to bring them back and put them back upstairs and then move them again. So with your permission, vote, motion, whatever we want to do, I'd like to authorize Bill to go ahead and get that framed up, a door installed, locked, everything like we need for some space in that Bradford building for the voting machines, and so they can get that done this week. We would probably, can you give me you have any idea what you think the cost might be, a not to exceed number?
I'm thinking somewhere around 3, and that may be, I just don't know. We're not really spending we're putting OSB on inside and outside. There won't be any installation. We're gonna need a plug in there and a door. So I really feel like somewhere around 3 or maybe even less, but that's a guess without sitting down.
I just need you to feel comfortable issuing a PO. For me to be able to issue a PO this week and you not say, well, gosh, we haven't even talked about that. But it's something we need to be able to do before the next court meeting if we're going to take advantage of this window of opportunity. So, Larry.
Well, the insurance have to go on it?
Well, it's probably not going to come out of the proceeds of the Bradford building as far as the insurance. Pretty much everything with the building itself, all the renovations, all the space for the drug court, and honestly, probably even the expenses related to getting the sheriff and the jailer areas like they wanted it. I think we're going to get within that budget of the insurance that we got, but I don't know if this would kick us off. We haven't got all of our final invoices in. I think we looked and we had about, I don't want to quote the number, but Bill and Nicole and I need to get together to see what we've got left outstanding to pay, but we're going to push that number pretty close. And then the paving is going to be outside of the insurance. All the paving in the parking lots, not included.
Yeah.
So we may have to rob from Peter to pay Paul to do these, do this voting machine area. And
Do they have to be
That
in a
needs to be
full,
done.
yeah,
do they have to be in a full, like, room, closed off room?
Yes.
Secure. Behind a chain link fence?
no, they need to be secure. Well, in theory, a chain link fence would work, but I function. You need them.
No, just
Yeah.
please,
Just asking.
in security.
Well, and not just so much about the security. You've got some electronic equipment that probably needs to be in areas that's not prone to a lot of dust, and and the rest of that building is unfinished in the back. So, yeah. But again, we're talking about stud walls and OSB, so it'll be
We're not
fine.
talking about that much money. I just
You
need.
and Jerry, it's working out pretty good for you.
Yes.
You already moved in?
Yes, sir, we got plenty of room. I appreciate it. I know Chad does, and it's been very useful.
And that was just a side benefit. Being able to gain some additional storage.
I personally think it was the smartest thing y'all have ever done while I've been here.
The smartest?
As far as purchase. The utilization of one building, I think.
Larry and I've been here 18 years.
First time
I've only been here,
Smartest thing we've done since you've been
There you go.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
sir. There you go.
Huh?
Do you need a motion?
I think it was a good move. I agree with you. I do. I think that was one of our better
When
decisions.
you get one building and you can benefit.
I try not to point out the decisions we made that we wish we
Great
hadn't.
decisions, wasn't
So
it?
that was one of the better ones, I agree.
And there's
I
like the other
agree.
voting machines too, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. And we still have space in that building. I mean, we've got some unobligated space, at least for now. It's amazing how, when you have unobligated space, you start finding things you want to use it for. Yeah,
I
you
mean
want
that in a good way.
Right,
I just want y'all to know.
Hey, we knew you did. We're
Oh,
all,
you said
Larry
you
got-
finally did something smart.
we're all friends here.
I think Larry had a motion to,
So you want to authorize going ahead and constructing out some storage space for the voting machines in the Bradford building? Motion by Larry, second by Blake. How about not to exceed 5,000? I don't think we'll get there, but let's just have a number. If it's over that, I'll come back to you. I just can't imagine it would be, so. Nicole sure hopes it's not, since we have no line item to pay for this from. We'll be doing some,
creative accounting.
yeah, here, as soon as the meeting adjourns, I'll be hearing about it, so. Okay, I got a motion and a second, Pam?
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Mike Tarpley,
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Tommy Bush.
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes. I believe that's all I have. Pam, you might help me remember if there's anything that I left
I
off
don't
that
have anything.
among our,
Did Bobby see the letter about the mosquitoes?
I have something I'd like to
Yes.
share with y'all.
He did.
That's okay.
hold on just a second. Yeah, did you say about the mosquitoes?
I said, did Bobby see the letter
Bobby
about the
Groves.
mosquitoes?
Oh, the thank you.
Yeah,
No.
thank you, though, yeah. Pam said he did.
Yes, he did.
Okay, yes, very good. Yeah, Eric. Mhm.
Judge, on October the 13th, we had an incident at the jail, and a young man choked, and he about went out on us. And these two gentlemen right here, Jacob Stratner, one of my deputies, and J.D. Johnson, one of my inmates, basically saved his life. And I just want to recognize these two. More likely they saved the death inside the
I said,
facility.
get over here in front of the camera.
So, yeah. But, Mr. Johnson saw the young man walking down the hall and recognized that he was choking, and, he started performing the Heimlich and was not successful at the time. And then a little bit bigger boy come around the corner and about slung him however he needed to be slung, but, they did. I just want you to know that what kind of work our deputies and our inmates, our work inmates are doing. And I'm proud of both of them, and I just wanted the court to know, that they did save a life.
Well, appreciate you sharing that.
Now, JD, you're talking about the guys that work with, that are getting stuff done inside the facility. That's one of the men that's getting it done.
Well, very good, very good. Appreciate you guys, and, you know, some days we need to be reminded, we get caught up in the things we do and the work that we do and the tasks that we are assigned, and we get distracted from what matters, what really matters sometimes. So those kind of things remind us that every breath's a gift, so we appreciate you guys and what you did. And every breath of every person is the same and counts the same. So we do appreciate what you guys did there, and I'm sure that young man's as grateful as anybody would be. So got a second chance on life. So thank you all again. Appreciate you. Thank you.
So, thank
All right, good note. Thanks for sharing those. Sometimes we need some of those things to kind of give us a shot in the arm and remind us what we're doing here.
Well, all this happened while I was at the KJA, and I was getting the play-by-plays, and of course I had the commissioners sitting beside me, and they got wind of it, and I think they're gonna do something to help reward that young man right there.
Well, I attended an EMS dinner Saturday night, and, you know, again, we gloss over these things sometimes, but I know you all are aware of this, but this is kind of a reminder. We work with people in our county government and all of the other agencies that are attached to us that are dealing with life and death every day. And, you know, again, we just take for granted that when we call 911 that the sheriff's going to show up or somebody from his department to keep a would-be robber or murderer or whoever knows what else they might be doing, from causing harm or death to somebody. You know, Bob and Leslie and these guys that are out there responding to, you know, with either an EMS run or a fire run. And Eric's been given the care of 300 people who, on the best day, are volatile and potentially something that could be life-threatening occur, or something as routine as a situation like this, that when you've got those kind of people under your watch care. So again, I think we should recognize what these guys do for us and not just take for granted. I mean, the emergency response and the emergency responders. And that's our, you know, the sheriff and I have talked about this, Eric and Leslie, Bob, all those guys who do that kind of stuff. You know, we do a lot of things, but our first highest priority is public safety. And that's where we should put our focus on our resources. And sometimes people don't agree with us on that, people who have other needs that feel like theirs are just as important. I hope people understand that that is I believe one of government's highest responsibilities is the safety of the public.
Because I got a personal experience on that. My wife and I were in Bowling Green the other day, and we got telephone calls on both of our cell phones from our security system saying that we had an alarm going off and didn't understand why. We got home, and Steve Chappelle had called me on the telephone. He was out checking our house out. Well, oddly enough, apparently it was where my wife had set some fruit out of the refrigerator that she was going to throw away, and the lid popped off. It's the only thing Steve and I could figure out that did it. And it said we had glass breakage in the kitchen, and apparently it was that lid on the container that kicked the thing off. But Steve was out there checking it out when we got home. So, your detail, I told Steve that I'd tell you, we appreciate it.
Well, congratulations again to you guys who put yourself in harm's way on our behalf. We appreciate that. I told them at that dinner Saturday night, you know, people like that they give up their weekends, they give up their holidays, they give up their family time. You know, you guys, you know, those kind of things don't happen 8 to 4 Monday through Friday conveniently. So
No, they don't.
We appreciate that. I don't have anything else to report on. Do you all have board reports, committee reports? Anybody to touch on before we adjourn?
The only thing I got is the library got their elevator working, and their plans for what they're gonna be able to start construction should be ready any day for.
The library?
No, I'm sorry, did I say library?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's news to me.
Archives.
Historical
I'm sorry.
Society.
You're supposed to be doing what I'm.
No, what you think? Yeah, right. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, at the archives, and they're fixing to move on, so it's looking good down there.
Very good. And thank you for
And that
helping.
elevator got fixed for about a third of the price of what they originally thought. So that's
Very good.
fantastic.
They can use it for material handling. Is that?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Nobody can ride it, but they can use it for material handling. That is
Very
correct.
good. Very good. Other committee reports, board reports, anything?
I missed the Renaissance Board meeting because of work, but I'd just like to commend Amy and all of our help for the job they do around the
Oh, yeah.
because it looks really good. And they have that Boo Fest coming up on, I think, October 29th.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to bring some straw for that, so, but she's done an excellent job with decorating the square, making downtown look good.
I agree.
Haven't seen any blacktopping going on anywhere. Do you know?
Well, hopefully, this crew coming in this week, I think roads are a part of that.
I think they're going to put it all in the east.
What's
All
the door
goes
they'll
to the
put in
south
the
after y'all visited.
Did, better be here at a court meeting. That's when the blacktop gets cut up.
When you gonna be gone again?
Divvied up. Did they get More Ford Road ready for?
They got it prepped.
It's ready?
Yeah, it's ready.
Okay. And Hardison Road, you said, has got all the work ready, you think?
I think
Of course,
so.
that's a state road.
Yeah.
But once it's paved, you know, we've got an agreement to take that and do a road swap with them.
You know, I talked to Magistrate Trauber up in Warren County, and I know we've talked about this a couple of times, but you know, we're just fixing to purchase a van for the jail, and get sheriff's vehicles and fire department. I don't know what their lease is they're going through, but he says that they've started leasing all their vehicles at Warren County, and it has saved them a ton of money. So I didn't know if you could talk to Judge Buchanan and find out exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, actually, the sheriff and I have a meeting, coming up, I think, in a week or two. I can't remember the date
I
exactly.
emailed the subject back, he hasn't
Yeah.
got back, but next week.
Yeah,
sometime.
that's the same program that Warren County has used. We're gonna explore it a little bit to see if it's
I don't know.
exactly as it sounds.
Yeah.
It's,
It sounds almost too good to be.
well, and that, yeah, I'm cautious of those things. But we're gonna explore it and see if it has merit but that's exactly the program that we're looking at,
Okay.
so. Anything else, Sam, you got anything? We don't have a closed session for anything?
Hope not.
Okay, anybody else? All hearts and minds?
Free?
Pay your taxes, we're 18% right now paid. Just make sure you get them by October, you got time to pay them, say.
Well, you'll get a bunch, you'll get a bunch on the 31st.
Next week.
2% discount?
I've come down to this board meeting, I don't have cash, and you're well under the $500,000, so you get.
All right, if there's no other business, then we'll entertain a motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Motion by Marty, second by Larry. Any further discussion on the motion? Pam, we'll call the roll. We'll be adjourned.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Bonnie Bush,
Yes.
Blake Parkley,
Yes.
Jim Henderson.